Make sure to be a member on the channel, link is in the description. Hello guys, once again it's Matt and today we have another video. So thank you our members, Silami and Lafush and Vivi for supporting the channel. So thank you, it helps a lot. Make sure to subscribe and make sure to get into our Discord server. So I actually opened the Discord server this week. And yeah, get into there. We are already building a community there, so get in there, and yeah, I'm going to leave the link in the description. So yeah. So today we're going to talk about the missiles. So we already have a lot of all aspect missiles in the game, and yeah, a lot of cool features and stuff like that. The IRCCM, the AIM-9L, and stuff like that. But we are going to talk about some missiles and the aircraft that they are supposed to be added. If they want to counter the F-14, of course, and all the other 4th gen stuff that is coming probably in the near future. I'm going to put this just to kind of, the idea of the video is to foment a little bit of the talks and stuff like that with the all aspect missiles for more aircraft in the game. They don't need to be, I mean, they have to be analyzed individually, each missile and each aircraft. But I think these are the missiles that we should see in the near future when more stuff is added to War Thunder, when MiG-29s and Tornadoes and, I don't know, F-15s and stuff like that are coming to the game. We might need these missiles because of the BR compression that we kind of have, at least a little bit in some BRs. So it just becomes a thing of balance, you know. There are some aircraft that will need these missiles to actually be competitive, okay? So I'm not saying that all these missiles that I'm going to talk about, they are needed right now. Some of them are, but we're gonna get into that. But uh, it's more like the same way that I talk about the early 4th gen that are coming probably in the next few patches in the 4th gen aircraft video. We're going to talk about the missiles that are probably coming in the next few patches, you know, so not into too much into the future, so no R-73 or AIM-9M, but yeah, still some very cool stuff. So first of all, let's talk about the AIM-9s. Obviously we're going to talk about IR missiles. There are some, I mean, there are some exceptions here, but normally just IR missiles. And there is 3 AIM-9s that I want to talk about: the AIM-9H, the AIM-9P4, and the AIM-9L. So the AIM-9H, we already seen it on the F-14, and there is a couple of aircraft that should be receiving it. In game, it doesn't change much. In real life, he had a better electronic suite to actually handle the carrier landings and stuff like that, because the AIM-9G and D had some problems with reliability because of the carrier landings. So this is the main objective of the AIM-9H actually existing, but it had also a little bit higher of a track rate, you know. So it can technically turn from one direction to another a little bit more quickly. I don't know if it's implemented, but still, it's hard to see it in the game. But there are some 2 aircraft that I think should be receiving them. It's the F4J and the A7E. The F4J, I mean, it has already the 9G, and being kind of the, you know, 70s F4 that we see there, late 70s F4J, you know, we probably should receive the contemporary missile from that time, you know. So yeah, it would make sense. And the A7E, it's one attempt to actually make it so it's a little bit better. I think the A7E has a completely BS BR, and it's just something that we need to change. It's 10.7, so a better missile would be a little bit better. So yeah. Another missile is the AIM-9P4. It would be basically the same missile that we already have, the AIM-9P, but technically with the IR seeker of the AIM-9L. So it is all aspect, and it can have a very good track rate and stuff like that, but it doesn't turn the same way as the AIM-9L does, and it doesn't have the burn time of the AIM-9L. So it won't get to 30 to 35 Gs. It won't get 5-second burn time. only has 20 Gs and 2-second burn time, 2.2 I think it's the P, and it's just an all aspect version of the A9P. It would be inferior to the IRCCM still, obviously, but it would be a very good addition for some aircraft that might get the M9L in the far future, but right now they don't need it, and this would be just to make sure that they are competitive for a long time before other 4th gen are added. So obviously the first two that I want to talk about is the F4 EJ Kai. I know the EJ Kai already received the M7F, but I think the P4 would make it a little bit, tiny bit better, you know. And the F5E AIDC, I think it's called, the Chinese one, which is, I think it's, I mean, top tier of China right now is not the greatest. Even though the J7 is one of the best dogfighters in the game, and the J8 is obviously one of the best aircraft in the game also. They have its they have its problems, and the F5E in general is a very amazing aircraft. But this would make it so that the life of the F5 is a little bit better, you know. The F4 EJ Kai I think could be receiving that right now. But the F5V probably just in the future when 4th gen is added. Together, maybe when more 4th gen is added, the F5E and the F4E for the American 3 also can carry this missile. So I don't think they would be OP. I mean, they would like a flare, just like M9L does. They don't have IRCCM, they don't have anything. They have a very short burn time, not a lot longer range, a long range, you know. So and they don't turn very well as well compared to other missiles. So I don't think they would be OP, and it's just a very cool missile that I think a lot of people should get it. Even the F-16A for Taiwan and other nations could receive it when they are added. Obviously, other missile, it's the A9L that we already have in game. But there are some aircraft that should be getting it to complete its performance upgrade to face 4th gen stuff coming. So yeah, M9L, you know, 5-second burn time, all aspect 3 kilometers, all aspect, very good missile. We already have it on the ESA, the F-104, and on the A-10. But I think the main aircraft they should get is the F4F. I think they should completely change the way that the F4Fs are. So I think the early version, the event vehicle, should be like an early 10.0 without the M9J and stuff like that. But I know that they won't change that. But still, like an early 70s F4F. The F4F, the normal Tech 3 variant, would have the M9L as its top missile, being an early 80s missile, early 80s kind of situation of the F4 or late 70s. And then later in its life we can receive another F4, the F4F ICE, which would have the M120. But this is in the far future. So the F4F receiving the M9L right now, it would help. It doesn't have sparrows, doesn't have kind of anything going for it. I mean, it's the lightest version of the F4, and technically the one that turns the better, but it's just a matter of time until it becomes just very outdated. So the A9L would help a lot on that. Another aircraft that can receive is the A7E, as I said. They can lower the BR to 10.3 or something like that, or they can put the A9L to 10.7. It faces a lot of top tier aircraft, so the A9L would make sense. It's just like the A10. The A7E right now is kind of food in top tier, so yeah. Other two aircraft that can receive it, maybe not right now, but I think they should, one of them at least. The FGR2, the Phantom F4M for the British. They used the M9L there. I don't think the FG1 actually was used with the M9L, but the FGR2 was. So it is a missile that can receive. The Skyflash right now is not the greatest thing ever. So, and the M9G is pretty bad for top tier, so this would help it make it so that it would stand a chance against top tier, upcoming top tier aircraft. Another aircraft is obviously the Jagdwagen, the JA-37C, but you know, it's one of the best aircraft in the game already. But the Skyflash and the M9P4, the M9P, they're not the greatest thing ever. So the RB24J, you know. So the RB74 or the M9L would make it so that it's a actual 4th gen counter, you know. Yeah, but these are the AIM-9s that we should see: AIM-9H, P4, and AIM-9L. For the Russians, obviously, I think there's 2 aircraft that should receive the IRCCM. All the other aircraft, they should get it. They already have it. I still think the MiG-21Bs should get it, but that's another discussion because it's lower DBR and stuff like that. It's supposed to be an early MiG-21Bs, and the German one is supposed to be a late one, but still. 2 aircraft that should be getting the R60M is the MiG-23 MLA and the MLD. Being the MLA already entered service with the R60M in the Soviet Union. I don't know if the Germans actually used the MLA with the R60, the normal R60, but still they could get. But in real life, they already had the ability to carry the R60M from the get-go because it's a 1977, 1976 missile, so it's a very old missile. And yeah, to be honest, to be able to compare itself with the F-14 and the MiG-29 and all the other aircraft that will have it, because obviously we will have some kind of PR compression. You will have to think that a MiG-29, for example, will be 11.3. It's not going to be 11.7 or 12.0. It's going to be 11.3 at first. So these aircraft with the R60M should be able to counter all the 4th gen that are going to come. Of course, obviously the MLD can receive in the far future the R73, but I think it's too early, obviously, to do that. Another thing, I don't know if this is if it will actually use that, but the FGR-2 technically maybe could use the Skyflash with the better missile from the 90s, I think. It's be able, basically they changed the Skyflash engines to be more comparable to the AIM-7F and AIM-7M with the booster and stuff like that, so it would make the Skyflash a tiny bit better, because the Skyflash right now doesn't have any energy past 10 kilometers. It's so hard to get kills from BVR. So yeah, it would help a little bit if the FGR actually used that. I could not confirm. It's very hard to find information on some of these missiles, so yeah. And another missile that should be added, maybe it's the AIM-7F or the F4Es. I don't know if the American ones or the Israeli ones actually use them. It's hard, as I said, to find information on it. But the AIM-7F could be an option for those aircraft as well. Maybe a new version of the F4E from the 80s with better avionics and HUD and stuff like that, with better missiles, the AIM-9P4 and the AIM-7F. I don't know, something like that would be nice for the Air Force. So yeah, and the last missiles that we're going to talk about, the PL-5E, the PL-8, and a little bit of the MatAWG 2. So the PL-5E is basically all-aspect version of the PL-5 that we already have. Supposed to be a similar all-aspect seeker and stuff like that, but it's just the same missile that we already love, but with an all-aspect seeker. It would be basically AIM-9P4, in the same way as the PL-5B and the PL-5E are, you know. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's going to be the same missile with an all-aspect seeker, so that would be amazing. The aircraft that should be receiving that, if they will, are the J7E, obviously, and the J8B. So yeah, those 2 aircraft, it's debatable if they actually need something like that, but I think the PL-5E would be suffice, at least at first, and after that maybe the PL-8. So another missile that we're going to talk about is the Python 3. The PL-8 is an Israeli missile. The stats of it are kinda, I mean, take this with a grain of salt. I don't know if the PL-5 or the PL-8 or the Python 3 should be added right now, because to be honest, they would be a little bit OP. So they are kind of a mix between an AIM-9L and an AIM-9M or an R60M and the R73. They're not quite there with an R73, but they're very similar to a missile like the AIM-9M. They have the same amount of energy basically as AIM-9L, but accelerating as a magic. So we would have 4 seconds of burn time, twice as many as the MatAWG 2, with an all aspect, with the same acceleration of the MatAWG 2. Basically, a little bit more even, but not that much. So it would be like a M9L but faster and can turn a little bit better. I think it could be able to carry up to 40 Gs. So yeah, it's very strong missile. So take this with a grain of salt. I don't know if this should be added, but it is in the files in the CDK. So I doubt that they would take too much time to actually add this missile. The aircraft they should be getting that should be maybe the J7E. I couldn't find if it would get it, but the J8 obviously, and the F4E from Israel if they want to, and the Kafir C7. So yeah, very powerful missile, very dangerous. I don't know if it's doable right now. All the other missiles are from the late 70s, and this is a very 80s missile, you know, even though it's kind of late 70s still, but it is a very 80s missile, you know, comparable, as I said, for like an A9M. The AIM-9M is probably a little bit better, but not by much. So yeah, and the last thing that we're going to talk about is the IRCCM for the MatAWG 2. So these missiles that we are going to talk about in the future, like the Python 3, like the AIM-9M and the R73, when we get them, they have a thing called IRCCM. So basically means infrared countermeasure. It's a way of the missile to ignore flares that are too far away from the FOV of the missile looking at the engine nozzle, for example, or the aircraft that you're firing at. So it kind of tends to try to ignore the flares or everything that it's not on the very tiny FOV that it's looking for the aircraft, and in that way it's very hard in certain distance, like less than 2 kilometers or 1 kilometer, to actually evade a missile with IRCCM. We already have IRCCM in missiles like the Igla and the Stinger on helicopters, but they're kind of too much, you know. It's like no single flare can actually make the missile evade the target. So just maneuvering. So it's kind of OP. So I don't know. They should be maybe reworking that mechanic, but still, it is a mechanic that should be added in these Python 3s, MatAWG 2s for now, and in the future the 9M and the R73. So yeah, these are 80s missiles that we're getting into, so they have a lot of other technology types, you know. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about these missiles and what aircraft you think should be getting them. I try to be very conservative here. You know, the way that I chose the aircraft and the missiles, I think I put it in a very secure way of not getting too power creeping, you know. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to join our Discord. As I said, it is in the description. Be sure to be a member and subscribe to see more. So yeah, I see you guys on the next one. Bye guys.